It's dinosaurs from
That's exactly
A dinosaur egg.
dinosaurs. Hell.
And then we just play. What was that show?
DNA.
Was the show called Dinosaurs from like the early 90s?
Oh yeah, Dino
Yeah.
Mama.
Yeah.
I used to
Instead of
love that shit when I
our
was a
track,
kid.
we
Me
just
too.
start playing the theme song from that show.
Clever girl.
You
Well
guys, clever girl.
You're listening to the Noon 15 podcast. I'm your host, Dan Cole, and I'll take you behind the scenes of Noon 15, an independent band writing, performing, and recording original music. This season, we'll talk about the band's sophomore album, Finish What You Started, and get the story behind one song per episode, as well as the ups and downs of working around day jobs, babies, and band shakeups here in Ithaca, New York. At the end of each episode, you'll hear the song in its finished form. Thanks for listening, and welcome to Noon 15, the podcast. Welcome to installment number 2 of Noon 15's podcast for Finish What You Started. I'm joined this evening by Mandy Goldman, Sam Lupowitz, Joe Massa, and Phil Shea in the driveway of Sam and Mandy's home, with Harry Nichols joining us remotely. And while we're not quite finishing anything today, I think we're all ready to at least continue what we started. We've got 3 new tracks. These were recorded at Sunwood Recording in Trumansburg and then mixed by Samuel B. Lupowitz in his fancy-pantsy home studio. So my first question is, we've been hearing these songs, I think all of them at shows and things like that for a little while. When were these recorded?
Ooh, back before Christmas of last year, December of 2019.
Okay, so pre-COVID, pre-anything like that.
So like 2 million years ago.
Yeah. When life was normal. So yeah, I mean, I was going to elaborate on that with like, was everyone there at once or was it installments? But life was normal, so you were all there in the studio. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, it was only in finishing overdubs that we had to get a little creative.
Yeah. So the first song that we're going to be talking about today is Dinosaurs. Writing credit on this one to Samuel B. Lupowitz.
A rain of solid rock is coming. You devour and never stop. But now the new breed is outrunning you. So give chase, we run until you drop.
Right off the bat, it's a classic Lupowitz opening riff. What's this song about for you? What's going on here?
It's a companion piece to The Tick, really. I wrote it early in 2017. So there were specific events that inspired it for sure.
Yo, fuck Donald Trump.
Yeah.
We can sprinkle those in throughout this. Yeah, that's fine.
And that's definitely the sentiment that inspired the song.
But behind your wall, do you hear the people sing? A rain of solid rock is coming.
But it's bigger than him too, which I know he's not the kind of person who likes to believe anything is bigger than him. It's about outmoded ideas and how people cling to them and fight to force them on people, and how those need to be eradicated. And sort of the, like, maybe it's not like the brightest and sunniest outlook, but the ultimate like point of the song is that those old ways and ideas will all be swept away one way or the other. It'll either be that we triumph over them through education and working together and evolving as a species, or it'll be because we eradicate ourselves completely. So one way or the other.
Well, shit on that note.
That's nice. Oh, that's nice.
We are made for pure, each living thing.
I'm hoping for the former. The song's about fighting for the former, but but one way it's inevitable. Regardless, that's really the hopeful message that I was trying to get across through this song.
A rain of solid rock is coming. You devour and never stop. But now the new breed is outrunning you.
I wrote this pretty early in the life of the band. I'm really glad we're getting this out because I feel like it's been in the rep for a while. It predates Phil. I feel like I've a lot of drummers have been through me beating them over the head about this song. But it all
least
turned out.
3.
It's not even the first time. I remember even after Phil joined the band, we recorded a version of this when we tracked
that's right,
the
yeah.
other, the Finish What You Started and the
right.
Tick, and it was the one of those 4 tracks that we were like, no, it's not quite there, you know, even though it's probably the oldest of them.
Behind your wall, do you hear the people sing? A rain of solid rock is coming. You devour and never stop.
I think getting into Sunwood, after we'd had some more time to gel, the 5 of us, but also like getting into a big space where we could have big bombastic drums. The big bombastic drums have seemed to be the thing that really makes the song work for me. So
I know a lot of effort was put into that. Yeah. There's a recording that we hear just before the vocal layering that starts at one point in the song there.
Mhm.
You said this is a companion piece to the Tick.
Yep.
Is that the same thing?
Yep.
Are you going to tell me this time what it is, or are you going to keep
Nope,
leaving us hanging?
still a mystery.
Okay. All right.
A mystery because we like to have some mystery in our songs, but also because if we said who it was, they'd probably make us pay money. So I don't know. That's why it's very masked. But yeah, it's an immediate continuation of the dialogue that's sprinkled into the end of the Tick. One more thing that ties these.
It's a Noon
tracks
15
together.
Easter egg.
Yeah, there you go.
They'll be listening to it backwards, trying to take all the effects off in 50 years.
Trying to find old movies to play it alongside to see if
Right.
anything matches up. Yeah.
It matches up with Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Kind of in a
Millisecond by millisecond. It's uncanny, really.
We recorded the basic tracks for these songs, for this before the pandemic, but we finished it during the pandemic, and this is one of the tunes. Harry's very, in the best way, Ozzy Osbourne like background vocals in the choruses. We recorded in our backyard, and I was telling you earlier, Dan, if you solo it, the compression just brings up the sound of woodpeckers destroying the woods behind our house. You can just hear it in solid rock is coming.
Cool.
You devour and never stop. Now the new breed is out running. Yeah.
Yeah, I was really stoked for that comparison.
I'm glad. Yeah. I was just like, oh yeah, no, it's very like Mr. Crowley kind of just like, Mama, I'm coming home. The thing with this song, the thing that's always made it sort of a challenge, even as we've worked it for years together, is that I've always wanted it to be both a hard rock song and an R&B funk song. And that's always been a challenge to find the right balance of those two things in the arrangement, and then in the mix, ultimately, like figuring out where, between like Tower of Power or Otis Redding on the one hand and Led Zeppelin on the other. Like, where's that happy medium where it swings and it's funky and but also it's crunchy. So I was listening to a lot of the Faces and Led Zeppelin, trying to find like who's splitting the difference, right? But the Ozzy element was definitely nice. Put that firmly in the hard rock corner rather than the funk corner.
The woodpeckers weren't delivering that crazy train vibra-slap sort of effect.
Oh man, I should have fired Jorge and just used the woodpeckers as.
That was I wanted to mention that too. Jorge T. Cuevas contributing on a couple of these songs.
I love it. I knew I wanted congas on this for the longest time. Again, that's take it, really bombastic drums, but wanting something to put it more in the funk camp, and that was it was a treat to have him, and we'll talk about that some more, I imagine, when we talk about Easy. His groove is so mighty. I knew I wanted him in particular because I've always appreciated, like, he's not like a drummer who plays some hand percussion. Like, he is a hand percussionist, and great at it, and I love it. It took a minute to find a pattern that worked the way I wanted it to, because when he just sat down and like laid something down over it, it took the song to the Caribbean immediately, the first couple of passes he did, and I was like, I think we got to work something else out, because it's just taking the song to a very different place. You were struggling enough between Tower Power and Zeppelin. Right. Tower Power and Zeppelin, like here left and right, and then he went this total other direction where I was like, oh, I want to do it's a samba now, and I didn't want it to be a samba. So we really worked it until we found like he sits in the drum, like the kick snare groove for the most part. It's a much less intricate part than I think he would normally play. But just him adding little flourishes did what I was hoping for, and just like the way he weaves in and out of Phil's pocket does a really cool thing.
You turned down the Harry Belafonte knob slightly.
Yeah, right. It was very, all of a sudden I was like, oh, daylight come and me want to go home. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Do you want a banana?
Turn down your head back to salacious ways. You eat your dead just like Cretaceous days.
And Phil, do you do anything differently when you know there's going to be someone else doing hand drums on a song, or is it like you're doing your job either way and he adds what he adds?
Yeah, the option B there. I didn't know at the time Sam was going to be adding hand percussion, but I wouldn't have done anything differently, I like to think I leave a little bit of space, and it's all about balance, right? You don't want the drum pattern to step on like some other instrument's toes, and so leaving a bit of room for love and hand percussion.
A little bit of room for love.
Well, you've always done exactly
a little
what
bit of
I
room
hoped
for Jesus. We always like to leave a little room for Jesus in our music.
That's right. Can I get an
Can't
amen?
stand too close. There's no room for Jesus. What? We leave
Now,
a little
Daniel.
room for Jesus.
That's right. And if you could look at the number at the bottom of your screens and just give a little bit, just a little bit.
Put a little in the hat for Jesus.
I don't like where the direction this is headed.
I don't know, Joe. I think that that's what people have really been expecting from me. Everyone who knows me. My gospel record.
You're handling mixing everything at this point, Sam.
Trying.
Which is, and kind of the first album you had pretty much mixed and recorded on your own and engineered and everything. And this is taking something that was recorded somewhere else, and now as you build your home studio,
right,
working on this in it. So, I mean, how's it coming, man? How's it coming along?
I mean, I'm pleased with how these turned out. I was saying earlier, like, these are the first ones that haven't been like, I like mix them in quotes and then take it to someone who knows what they're doing more and be like, okay, but really, like, what would this sound like if someone who knew what they were doing did it? Chris did that on the last mixes, but Chris recorded these, which to be fair, gave the recordings were especially nice because we were in his nice space and using his nice equipment and his skills as far as recording. So rather than me shoving us into a closet and setting up the microphones and hoping for the best, it took a while, but I'm starting to get the hang of this to the point where when I present a mix to the band, I actually feel like it sounds like a record we can all be proud of. So, but that's at least from where I'm sitting. So I'm having a good time.
In kind of a more general sense than this specific song we're talking about here, but in the what have you as a band been able to do? Really much of anything, or are you still kind of having to keep your distance and do everything pretty much remotely?
We have actually been getting back together in our yard around the fire and when possible, and we're trying to make sure that we have some music that we can keep sort of putting out and things we can do for folks even as the winter comes and we're not able to get together around the fire anymore. But we have some plans that I'm excited about. Harry's been really coming up with some great ideas for that, which is good because I've been sort of like flummoxed by it.
And we all write, we all keep writing and recording, like, at least we all keep writing and, like, sending shit to each other and, like, asking for one another's opinions and putting stuff in our, like, never-ending Google Drive of demos. So, we'll keep finding ways to record, for sure.
Well, I know that one was pretty heavily focused on Sam, but was there much more you wanted to talk about with?
Joe's guitar is heavy and awesome, but there's more of that to come too.
No, I had that as a note here at one point. Like, is it redundant to talk about how solid Phil and Joe are on a regular basis? I mean, I can bring it up every time if we want to. But. And with that, I think we're ready for the song. We have Mandy Goldman on lead vocals and tambourine, Samuel B. Lupowitz on Wurlitzer OB-XD synthesizer, talkbox, and background vocals, Joe Mass on electric guitars, Harry Nichols on the bass and background vocals, Phil Shea on the drums, and Jorge T. Cuevas on congas, shakers, and the gong. It's Dinosaurs from Noon 15.
Almighty King, reptile
Thanks for listening to the Noon 15 podcast. Visit noon15.com to subscribe and for more music, videos, and info on upcoming shows. If you like what you hear, tell your friends and leave us a review on iTunes. Tune in next time for another trip behind the scenes with Noon 15.
No, the geese.
I was going to say, if you're hearing anything, as I mentioned, we are in the driveway of...
No, leave it in.
They're not actually that close. That's just Mandy. Don't
Call
mind.
Mandy.
I'm working on it.
That'll be when we cover Tomorrow Never Knows Again. That's going to be
Do a
the...
goose call.
Yeah.
It's part of my pedagogy, my vocal pedagogy practice. Is
Goose calls.
goose calls, animal imitations.
Of course.